Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Brian Craig. It is the Brian Craig Show podcast. Make sure that you follow and subscribe wherever you're listening. All right. So President Trump, the Mideast tour continues, and we'll continue to cover and discuss that. And, you know, what President Trump is doing is so amazingly historic, you know, and I was talking on the morning show this morning about these new alliances President Trump is putting together. You know, the NATO alliance, which is our primary alliances, right? Those are supposed to be our closest ones. And those are the World War II allies. And then some of the former Soviet bloc nations that have joined in over the years. And for the most part, Europe and us have nothing in common. There's some exclusions, Poland, Italy, maybe you can think of another one or two. But he's putting together a true alliance. And you got to look, why was the NATO alliance formed, right? The NATO alliance was formed to prevent a third world war. Now we had the Cold War and, you know, military industrial complex scams going on with that. But in general, you know, we had two world wars in Europe, pretty close together. And a lot of historians believe that World War I and II are the same war. It took just a little ceasefire in between. And I agree with that to a certain extent, at least the war in Europe. But NATO was formed to make sure that Europe didn't break out in war again. The Middle East, in my entire lifetime, has been nothing but skirmishes and even wars, right? We had two wars in Iraq. There's always a bombing mission here, a bombing there, airstrikes from there. A carrier group moved here. Israel attacked at a music festival. And the Middle East has been a never-ending conflict. And there have been peace talks and summit meetings and, you know, going back to the Arafat days with Clinton and even before. And since, and what really has become of them? Nothing. We're always right back where we started. Hamas, Hezbollah are always attacking Israel. Iran is always a thorn. Syria was a problem because they were allied with Saddam Hussein in Iraq, and then they've had a civil war going on for many years now. And all the peace talks and negotiations and agreements and summit meetings have amounted to nothing but endless, nonstop conflict in the Middle East. And here's President Trump, who's come along with the most amazing and outside of the box thinking so far as ending the endless conflict in the Middle East. And you bring peace to the Middle East. Think about what a stabilizing factor that'll be in the world. And there's already countries out there that are really good friends. Obviously, Iraq is an ally. We saw the president in Saudi Arabia. They love him. He's in Qatar today. He's lifted the sanctions on Syria. And what's going to happen is Iran, who's the number one funder of terrorism worldwide, is going to find themselves so isolated. You know, the United States has more oil than any of these OPEC nations. And we have been in the past. We are close to it now and will be again with Trump, but the largest oil producer in the world. And notice how President Trump is making all these deals and friendships and permanent lifelong bonds with these OPEC nations in the Middle East. You know, President Trump could end up with the United States becoming an OPEC nation. Could you imagine what that would mean? The power. You know, oil is what makes the world go round. And there's tremendous power in oil. And being friends and allied with these OPEC nations is a good thing. And there's a lot of talk. Well, you know, this guy that's the leader of Syria was a terrorist. Japan, okay? I mean, what Japan was doing to Americans, the Americans left behind in the Philippines in the war. You know the stories of what they did, and they're our closest ally in that region today. They've been allied with us for so long, and sometimes you got to move on and make friends with people that used to be blood enemies. And a lot of these conflicts are really meaningless conflicts and disagreements that we should not even be having. And this global reset that President Trump is doing is on so many levels that and there's so much going on I don't even think we understand it yet, right? Everything. We know what he's doing and we see it and we understand what the big picture is. But he's doing things behind the scenes that are amazing. These all should be individual peace prizes. If he was a Democrat, he'd be getting a Nobel Peace Prize nomination every week for these things he's doing. I know they don't hand them out every week, but you know what I mean. And some of it, with Iran is, President Trump, he wants Iran isolated. He wants this government removed because they have death squads looking for him because he took out Soleimani. And he wants to deal with Iran. And what better way to deal with them than make alliances with these other countries around Iran and isolate them? And for the life of me, these Democrats out there that are opposing what he is doing is such just knee-jerk Trump derangement syndrome suffering disagreement. And, the Democrats, they're not going to get their act together. I mean, they're not even relevant. They're not even players in anything that's going on. The only reason that they're even seen as players, which they're not, is because they're overrepresented in the fake news legacy media. But they're making themselves more and more irrelevant each and every day. And so far as the economy, which they were making such a big deal about, we got the lowest inflation numbers in a long time, eggs down into the 12%. I just saw a story today. McDonald's is going to hire 375,000 workers across the entire United States. Listen to this. Alongside the labor secretary, day before yesterday, McDonald's announced they plan to hire 375,000 workers over the summer. That's amazing. This announcement is McDonald's biggest hiring in years. For comparison, McDonald's set out to hire 260,000 workers in 2020 when the world reopened. And they're also looking to add 900 plus new McDonald's locations in the United States alone in the next couple of years. I mean, where are they going to put them? I mean, we have a McDonald's on every corner in America now. And we're seeing tremendous amount of economic growth. So you look at everything President Trump has touched in this second term, which is in its early days. Not only has everything worked out perfectly, it's worked out better than anyone could imagine or predict. And, if the Democrats ever want to come back and have a seat at the table again, there's some of these things that are universally nonpartisan good that they would serve themselves better getting behind and supporting as opposed to opposing. And one of the things that President Trump has done that is phenomenal and really freaking out a lot of these people is this plane gift to the United States from Qatar. It's amazing to me that they're trying to make a scandal out of this. It's going to happen. They're making the deal today. And the significance of the plane from Qatar is it's a bond. To not accept the plane would be an insult to Qatar. And everyone has been talking about the gift from France of the Statue of Liberty. I've never heard anyone suggest that the Statue of Liberty was a bribe. But with Trump here, it's a bribe. It's a bribe. What it is, it's a sign of respect that these other countries are showing for the United States. Right? The respect of the United States is back. When we were led by corrupt, incompetent people like Joe Biden, Obama, Clinton, we weren't respected. We were chumps. Now we're respected again. And these countries, it's not only are they respecting us, it seems like they've missed it. They've missed the ability to support and respect the United States. And what are they doing on the left? Supporting criminals. Now, this judge that helped that illegal alien escape for a short time because he got captured, that was arrested in Wisconsin, she's been indicted by the grand jury. I saw in the Drudge Report a little while ago, which is one of the most liberal. Drudge Report used to be so great, and just left wing garbage now. But Chief Justice Roberts, he says the rule of law is endangered. Rule of law is endangered. What he means is the old guard of the permanent Washington class's power over the people of this country, that is endangered. You know, being in a free country has been an illusion. We have not been truly free. We thought we were free. But we weren't free. And it's becoming more and more obvious every time. And that's why, you know, when I've been talking the last couple of days, yesterday's podcast on the morning show today, about Republicans that are critical of Trump and his team, anyone who is doing that is not MAGA. If they claim to be, they're fake MAGA. And the old guard, the permanent Washington class, are planning a comeback. It's not going to happen. See, one of the reasons that they're not going to have a comeback is because the expectations of the American people have been changed by President Trump. You know, the days of accepting corruption in Washington are over. The days of accepting do-nothing Republican politicians is over, right? We're in a new era. And for the first time, it's been going on for 10 years now, but for the first time in this country, since Trump came down the escalator, Republican voters expect results. See, before, Republicans would make us promises and never accomplish them. You know, like moving the embassy in Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, which is the capital. George W. Bush promised that many times. He had no intention of doing it. Roe v. Wade, overturning Roe v. Wade was on the Republican Party platform for years. They had no intention on ever doing that. Trump's doing the things that Republicans would tease us with no intention of ever doing it. So now the voters expect results from our Republicans, right? And they'll stand for nothing less than results from Republicans. And if you don't produce results, you're out. Now, I want to tell you guys, Father's Day is right around the corner. There is no better gift for Father's Day than the MyPillow My Slippers. They're $90 off with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane at mypillow.com. And they have large and wide sizes for bigger guys. Go there, get Dad My Slippers for this Father's Day. I'm a dad. I know what dads love. And these slippers are the most comfortable slippers or shoes you have ever put on your feet. It is complete peace and serenity. It's like having your entire foot surrounded by my pillows. And I know when I come home, and no matter how stressful things have been, no matter what I'm going through, I put my feet into those MyPillow My Slippers, and it starts with the feet and toes, the toes and feet. The stress just it leaves my body, starting at my toes all the way up. They're so comfortable, and they're $90 off, just $59.98 with our promo code Kane at checkout, Kane at mypillow.com. So go to mypillow.com and order your My Slippers. I'm Brian. We'll be right back. True warriors don't follow trends. They forge legacies. At TacticalVikingBrand.com, they believe warriors are built, not born. Tactical Viking was inspired by the ferocity of Norse legends and the precision of modern fighters. Tactical fighting is more than just a brand. It's a way of life. They create apparel for those just like you who live by strength, resilience, and honor. Every battle-worn design tells a story of warriors who refuse to surrender. When you wear Tactical Viking, you're not just wearing clothing, you're wearing a legacy. Everything is a tribute to the warriors who gave everything so we could carry the shield forward. The burial flag on our sleeve isn't just a symbol, it's a promise that we will never forget the sacrifices made before us. Join the Brotherhood, forge your legacy, stand strong, stay ready, no surrender. Visit TacticalVikingBrand.com right now and view the inventory. You will be impressed, and use the code TACTICAL10 to save 10% off your purchase. TacticalVikingBrand.com. Forge your legacy. Wear the warrior's spirit.
My name is Dr. Philip Appleton. I'm a chiropractic physician. Over the years, I've treated thousands and thousands of patients from bursitis, tendonitis, sciatica, stenosis, neuropathy, tears, post-surgery, pre-surgery, herniated disc, gout, bone on bone. If you can name the pain, most likely I've treated over the years. Most of my practice is laser with robotic lasers. They're robots which rotates constantly around the area, where most lasers do not do that. So if you want to come in for a free consultation, as always here, welcome at Appleton Chiropractic. I'm here 6 days a week. I personally do all the treatment. You can bring your MRIs, you can bring your x-rays, you can bring your CAT scans, whatever you have to bring for me to look at, I would do that free of charge.
Call Dr. Appleton right now for that free consultation. 954-973-0710. 954-973-0710. And online, AppletonChiro.com. If you're a homeowner or with a homeowners association and your roof is old or compromised, you need to call Tom Laporta at Laporta Roofing. Laporta Roofing has been in the roofing and construction business since 1984, with thousands of roof installations and thousands of satisfied customers. Did you know that in the state of Florida, you can open a roofing company and borrow someone else's license? Tom Laporta is the holder of his roofing and general contractor's licenses, not like the other companies that borrow other people's licenses. So be sure who you're dealing with. Tom Laporta and his team are honest, knowledgeable, and reliable, and he'll never sell you a roof you don't need. Laporta Roofing carries all insurance, including workers' compensation on all of its employees, not just a waiver like other contractors. Laporta Roofing can handle any type of roofing job too: residential roofing, HOAs, condominiums, and churches. If it's roofing, Laporta Roofing can do it. So call Tom Laporta on his cell phone, 954-604-4602, or connect online at laportaroofing.com. That number again is 954-604-4602. Laporta Roofing, the go-to roofing company you can trust.
You are listening to the Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Brian. And if you saw President Trump touch down in Qatar, it was amazing. You know, as much respect as they showed to him in Saudi Arabia, in Qatar, they quadrupled down. They greeted him with this Cybertruck escort. Did you see? I mean, it was just absolutely beautiful, you know, and, you know, that respect that they're showing President Trump, it's not just to him, it is to him, but it's also to the United States and the people of this country. And Trump's, Qatar is, of course, giving him this plane. And he compared it to the gift of the Statue of Liberty. And that is the perfect comparison to it. You know, France, you know, they gave us the Statue of Liberty. Nobody ever said anything was wrong with that. And it's something here in this country that we cherish. And it's a symbol of the country. And this plane will be a symbol of something as well. Now, the CNN has basically become a 24-hour news network about Biden's cognitive decline. And I've been talking the last day or so about it, asking, you know, what is this all about? I mean, they're even talking about how they told Biden he was going to have to start using a wheelchair. It was going to be never ending, you know, and the only thing I can think of to make sense out of why they're doing this now is they're running an angle, and it's not to sell Jake Tapper's books. Okay, he could write a book about anything else. Maybe it's to try to say that because Trump is that age, he has cognitive decline, right? And you know, the Biden's covered it up, but we're not going to cover that up. I don't know, but I do know this. President Trump is not your normal guy of his age. He has more energy than I have. And I think I have pretty good energy. I don't know how he does it. I can hardly keep up watching him on television, and he's actually doing this. Now, I was reading the Huffington Post. They say some Republicans are voicing concern over Trump's plan to accept the plane from Qatar. John Thune says there'll be plenty of scrutiny. Yeah. Huffington, I haven't read the Huffington Post in a long time. So, you know, let me read this. Yeah. Let me see what kind of lunacy they have. They posted a story from Reuters in the HuffPost. Multiple congressional Republicans raised concerns about President Trump's desire to accept a $400 million airplane from Qatar, with at least one noting doing so could pose a security risk. Trump said on Monday it would be stupid for him to refuse Qatar's offer of a Boeing 747-8 plane, which would be used as U.S.'s Air Force One, the jet American presidents travel when they fly the globe. The aircraft eventually would be donated to Trump's presidential library, they say. Okay, I don't think Trump's ever going to fly on this plane. The sitting president even though they're going to make it an Air Force One is more than one aircraft, okay? There's an entire fleet of different planes, of different sizes. And sometimes you see President Trump on some of the different Air Force Ones that you can tell just by looking at them. Just because a plane that the president is on gets the designation of Air Force One. But just because this plane will be part of the Air Force One fleet, it'll be more symbolic than anything. For the president of the United States, who's a sitting president, to fly on a plane, it has to have all kinds of things on it. It has to have countermeasures in case there's missile or fighter attacks. It has to have incredible maneuverability, like a combat aircraft. It has to have a communication center. And a lot of people believe, a lot of what's on Air Force One's classified. A lot of people believe it is armed. I don't know if that escape capsule is there like they had in Air Force One with Harrison Ford, but there's the communication center. There's all kinds of things that go into an Air Force One. So just because this Qatar plane will have an Air Force One designation does not mean President Trump's going to fly on it. Now, that doesn't mean he won't fly on it to the library, which is going to be here in Florida, I hope, and assume after the next president comes into office. But I love how these never-Trumpers are all of a sudden concerned about President Trump's safety. Oh, it's a security risk. How could he fly on? Will there be bugs on it? Will there be bugs on the Qatari plane? They found bugs in the president's office in the Oval Office here in his second term. They put bugs at Trump Tower. We even found out the Obama regime left listening devices behind in the West Wing when they left during Trump's first term. So now all of a sudden, you've got the liberals are concerned about people bugging President Trump's offices and facilities. You've got the liberals all of a sudden concerned about President Trump's safety. Since when are they concerned about these things in regards to President Trump? This all comes as news to me. And I don't think I'm the only one. I think it comes as news to you as well. And, one of the things that hits President Trump in his heart when he's in the Middle East is how nice everything is. He was talking yesterday about Air Force One landing in Saudi Arabia, and he saw the other planes from the Middle Eastern leaders that were just majestic, beautiful planes. And Air Force One is an old, out-of-date, rickety airplane. Compared, it's 30 years old. It went into service when Bush 41 was president. That's the father. And yeah, he is absolutely correct about that. Air Force One used to be like, okay, this is the most beautiful plane in the world. Nobody has planes like this. It's supposed to be a big thing. And it's just not that way anymore. And Boeing has zero plans on delivering this plane to President Trump. They have no plans on delivering it to him. They're going to keep pushing it down because they're pissed off at him. All right. And they got Trump derangement syndrome. Okay. And he wants this beautiful plane that he probably won't fly on to be a symbol. He probably plans on using it during America's 250th anniversary celebration. Now, I want to take a moment to thank our Patreon supporters. If you'd like to support the program, become a Patreon supporter. There's a link in the description of the episode. And remember, Patreon supporters have access to commercial-free editions of all the podcast episodes, okay? And our top Patreon supporters get a live thank you shout out on every episode of the podcast. So the names you'll hear now are our top Patreon supporters. I want to thank Andrew and Connie, Christine, ETW, Chuck, Pamela, Nick, Wesley, Heather, David, Maria in Texas, Alice, LeeZep, Shawna, George, Brandon, John, Frank, Dale, David, Laura, Rob, and SFjr. These are our top Patreon supporters. Thank you for your support. And again, if you'd like to become a Patreon supporter, there's a link in the description of this and every episode of the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Now, if you're wondering how popular Trump is and how bad things are going for the left, all right, now this just dropped within the last hour. Gavin Newsom in California is actually openly talking to people about taking the free health insurance they provide to illegals away from them. And I know that seems like a pretty common sense thing, but not for a liberal, especially a California liberal who used to be the mayor of San Francisco. You know, when you have someone like Gavin Newsom, okay, taking very conservative positions, you're in a whole new place than you've ever been before. That's how popular Trump is. And this is what I was talking about earlier in the show when I was saying Democrats, President Trump is supporting universally popular things. And, you know, I'm starting to wonder, well, Gavin Newsom's running mate, who's he going to find, right? Who is he going to be able to find? He's taking the opposite positions on all of these hardcore liberal issues, not because he believes in them. It really shows you he doesn't believe in much of anything. He just takes the popular positions of the day and then makes them his, and he's never going to be elected president. That doesn't mean he won't get the nomination, but each and every day you see Gavin Newsom come more to the MAGA right, which shows you how popular Trump is. And that's why I've been telling you guys a lot lately that these Democrats that are going so far to the right on issues like this one is just backs up that conservatives need to stop questioning Trump and just let him have these first 2 years to get everything done. He's that popular. You know, the big story out today, there's a long list of Republicans who say they're going to vote against the big, beautiful bill because of the prescription drugs and this and that. They'll vote for it. Okay, we will get the bill passed through Congress. President Trump is too popular. The things in the bill are too popular. And they'll let some Republicans vote against it just so long as they have enough Republicans to pass it. Both parties let people do that all of the time. But do not let the media make you think that so many Republicans are distancing themselves from the big, beautiful bill. It's not going to pass. It will pass. I have no worries about it. You know, you look at everything that President Trump has gone through in the last few years, all right, especially the 4 years of the Biden regime, and he came back and he's president again. Don't doubt this guy. And what's going to happen when that big, beautiful bill passes, it's going to be the biggest tax cut in history for working Americans, right? The no tax on tips, overtime, Social Security, the deductions of the interest off auto loans on American-made cars, the extension, maybe even making permanent the Trump tax cuts, and there'll be other taxes that'll be cut in there too that I don't know off the top of my head. These things are so popular that that once this bill passes, President Trump is going to have nothing but victory after victory after victory. Okay, as popular as he is today, there are so many people who have no idea how much he's getting done and how they're going to be helped by him. They have no idea how much, and then all of a sudden they're going to realize, wow, my paycheck is bigger. It's huge. I'm not getting taxed on my tips anymore. So there are a lot of people that are tip workers who know and are supporting Trump, but a lot of them aren't. And all of a sudden, when their paychecks are bigger every month, they're going to become hardcore Trump supporters. Technology is evolving faster than ever. It's shaping the way we play, connect, and innovate. Join brothers Cody and Michael on Tech and Tactile, the podcast where gaming, technology, and accessibility collide. Tech and Tactile explore the latest trends in video games, gadgets, and adaptive tech, while advocating for accessibility for all players and users, including those with disabilities. With personal stories, expert insights, and real conversations about breaking barriers, Tech and Tactile is a must listen to for gamers, tech lovers, and anyone passionate about making digital spaces open to everyone. Don't just scroll, press play, and be a part of the movement. Listen right now on Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube, and techandtactile.com. That's TECHNTACTILE. Add Tech and Tactile to your podcast playlist right now. Parenting a struggling teen can feel overwhelming, but you're not alone and you're not failing. Hope for Parents with Struggling Teens is the podcast that gives you real talk, expert insights, as well as practical tools that actually work. Hosted by Brandon Jaffe, each episode tackles the tough questions, like what does it mean to lead your family without losing yourself in the process? Fidget toys are often recommended to manage ADHD, anxiety, and more. They seem like a simple solution, but are they helping or hurting? Does understanding our past truly lead to healing? If you're searching for clarity, direction, answers, and a way to rebuild connection and peace in your home, Hope for Parents with Struggling Teens is your next must-listen-to podcast. You don't have to figure it out alone. Tune in today and find the help you've been searching for. Add Hope for Parents with Struggling Teens to your podcast playlist right now. What does success really mean? Fame? Fortune? A dream job? Author Stephen Armstrong challenges the world's shallow definition of success and offers something deeper, something eternal in his book, Fear or Faith, Finding Success in Christ. Available on Amazon. This must-read book explores the tension between fear-driven ambition and faith-filled purpose, helping readers uncover the true meaning of success through the lens of Jesus Christ. It's not about chasing empty goals. It's about aligning your life with God's calling. Author Stephen Armstrong invites you to reflect on life's biggest questions and equips you with spiritual insight to break free from superficial pursuits and discover what truly matters. Whether you're starting your journey or seeking a course correction, Fear or Faith bridges the gap between worldly ambition and spiritual fulfillment, because real success doesn't end at a title, it begins with truth. Fear or Faith, Finding Success in Christ, from author Stephen Armstrong, is available on Amazon in Kindle, paperback, and Kindle Unlimited. Order your copy right now and begin your journey. True warriors don't follow trends. They forge legacies. At TacticalVikingBrand.com, they believe warriors are built, not born. Tactical Viking was inspired by the ferocity of Norse legends and the precision of modern fighters. Tactical fighting is more than just a brand. It's a way of life. They create apparel for those just like you who live by strength, resilience, and honor. Every battle-worn design tells a story of warriors who refuse to surrender. When you wear Tactical Viking, you're not just wearing clothing, you're wearing a legacy. Everything is a tribute to the warriors who gave everything so we could carry the shield forward. The burial flag on our sleeve isn't just a symbol, it's a promise that we will never forget the sacrifices made before us. Join the brotherhood, forge your legacy, stand strong, stay ready, no surrender. Visit TacticalVikingBrand.com right now and view the inventory. You will be impressed, and use the code TACTICAL10 to save 10% off your purchase. TacticalVikingBrand.com. Forge your legacy. Wear the warrior's spirit.
You are listening to The Brian Craig Show podcast, broadcasting from sunny South Florida. Brian is joined by his wife and co-host, Kathy. Follow Brian on social media at BrianCraigShow.com. And now, Brian and Kathy.
You know, I always tell you guys, trust in Trump. Even when not that I think he ever has done anything wrong, because he hasn't, but even when you might think Trump has done something wrong, he's always proven right. Like this plane story from Qatar. He just signed a deal just now with Qatar, with the head of Boeing, to buy 150 aircraft from Boeing. It is a multi-billion-dollar deal that President Trump just brokered between Qatar and Boeing. And he sat there with them and brokered the whole thing. This is the largest order ever from Boeing, American company. And how much money is that for the individual workers who build the aircraft at every level of production and things that go along with that? Does it occur to anybody out there that's been giving Trump a hard time about this gift to the American people from Qatar, which is a Boeing 747, had something to do with this deal that he knew was coming up? When are people going to learn to stop questioning Donald Trump? Will they ever learn? I don't think so. And now, he met the leader of Syria, this ex-jihadist, and he had a $10 million bounty out on Trump's life. And now he's forging an alliance with him. And I know that may seem crazy to a lot of people, but that's what you got to do. You know, these enemies that we have around the world, most of the time, in almost every instance, they're not our enemy. This is just propaganda from the different governments to make us hate this person or that country so that we're enemies with one another for whatever reason. Most of the people around the world get along well. And when you're someone like President Trump that can sit down and shake hands and work out deals with someone who had a bounty out on you, and we had a bounty out on him too, it goes both ways. It's amazing. I mean, this is Churchill level diplomacy. This is some of the most brilliant, maybe the most brilliant international relations that we've ever had from a president of the United States going on with Donald Trump right now. And it's endless. It's like every day there's something new. Now, this is exactly what I've been telling you guys about the last couple days that really burns me. Mark Levin, this is in Mediaite. Mark Levin's going after President Trump on this Middle Eastern trip, and he posted on X just a little while ago, and this is what he said. Saudi Arabia played a significant role on the 9/11 slaughter of our people. I didn't hear the Crown Prince even apologize once yesterday for what they did to us. And I know the 9/11 families are reeling from this. This is Mark Levin on X. And Qatar protected the leader of the 9/11 attack from the FBI before he was able to launch his war on America that killed our people. The debate about whether the plane is a legal gift is beside the point. Qatar is a terrorist regime that has murdered Americans. I cannot let bygones be bygones. And those Americans who suffer the consequences of what these monarchies did cannot either. I can't stop thinking about all the innocent people who went to work that day and were on those planes, and all the firefighters and police officers who died horrible deaths. As for Iran, if they get a nuclear weapon, that's on our generation, and our country will suffer the horrible consequences. These are terrorists. They don't think like us. They don't love like us. We must have the guts and wisdom to protect ourselves. Okay, now this is exactly what I've been talking about, guys, okay? I want you to think about this a little bit. And I'm not disagreeing with what he says in the beginning. I mean, there's a lot of factual information there. But if you're going to open up a new door and change the future and the future relationships with this part of the world, you have to make some difficult sacrifices. You know, 9/11 was 24 years ago. So the same amount of time between now and 9/11 is between Pearl Harbor and 1965. So in 1965, I'm not saying there weren't a lot of people that were still angry at Japan and Germany for good reason. However, we were allied with them. We were friends with them at that time. Trade had begun and much more. And I'm not saying let bygones be bygones, but at some point you do have to move on from these things. I mean, should we still hold Japan and Germany accountable? Should we have held Germany and Japan accountable still in 65 and been angry at them? I mean, this is, it gets to a point. It's a lot like liberals who hold America and white people responsible for slavery still, even though it happened long ago. I know it's much more recent, 9/11. And I know some of these things are a lot more recent than that, obviously. Some of them we lived through. But if you're going to change the course of things in the Middle East, you're going to have to move beyond those things and try to change our relationships moving forward. Yes, that was a vacuum cleaner you heard. Before all the shutdowns and lockdowns, noises like that would freak people out. Now everybody does everything from home. I'm always broadcasting from my home studio. Okay, I just saw, though, while I was waiting for the vacuum to stop, Alex Jones went off on Mark Levin. I mean, really went off on Mark Levin. I'm glad people are doing it. So we got me, Tucker, and Alex Jones calling out Mark Levin. And, I cannot stress this enough. This is a unique presidency. This is not a normal presidency, okay, like you have Bush or someone like that. And it's not that big of a deal to disagree with him on this, that, or the other thing. It's a very unique presidency that is unlike any other presidency we will ever have again. In fact, Donald Trump's presidency is so unique. It's in so many ways equally as important as George Washington's presidency, because George Washington being the first president, he had 2 terms, but back to back, but he was establishing the office of the presidency, and the commander-in-chief even led troops in the Whiskey Rebellion as commander-in-chief when he was president. And Donald Trump, what he is doing, you guys know, right? A global reset. He is freeing the American people, liberating us from the permanent Washington class and all that goes along with that. And, these old guard Republicans like Levin, when they criticize Trump, that is something you want to remember. Just remember. Okay, so we got a little more detail on this Boeing deal. This was amazing that President Trump signed. President Trump signed. It's a massive deal, the biggest deal that Boeing has ever gotten. And obviously, the plane gift had something to do with that. And I know a lot of people say, oh, well, look, he's in a cult. It's not a cult. We have a movement to free our country. When Martin Luther King was leading the civil rights movement, he was in a similar situation, but President Trump's a bigger civil rights leader even than him, because Martin Luther King was leading African Americans to freedom. President Trump's leading everyone to freedom. Now, I wanted to share, this is some amazing good news that I just saw on Breitbart. Listen to this. Colorado late-term abortion clinic is closed after 50 years. Listen to this. This is in Breitbart right now. I put this on X, Brian Craig Show on X. A Colorado clinic, infamous for late-term abortions, is shuttered after 50 years of being open, according to the Associated Press. The 87-year-old clinic founder and late-term abortionist who runs this place says, it became impossible to continue, but closing is one of the most painful decisions of my life. The clinic was one of the few in the United States that aborted babies after 28 weeks of pregnancy. Oh, my goodness. For years, he was the only abortionist in the United States who performed abortions later in pregnancy. The clinic closed because of financial issues. The doctor, calling this guy doctor, oh my goodness, said many women had difficulty paying for $10,000 late-term abortions, which are not covered by insurance. What a crook. $10,000 for a late-term abortion? When you're having abortions late-term, why are you having them? Why are you having them? If you're paying $10,000 to have an abortion, which is what he was charging for the late-term, why were you really having that abortion? My guess would be a big chunk of those were women who were cheating on their husbands and got pregnant, wouldn't you? $10,000, that's how much they were charging? The reason that this clinic is going out of business is not the $10,000. It's that because of the morning after pills and also birth control is much more common now. And also the young people of childbearing years with all the different genders and so many gays, they're not having reproductive type sex as often as they used to. The birth control, those morning after pills, surgical abortions just are not like they used to be, right? I mean, it's kind of like they've gone out of style like VHS tapes and Blockbuster videos. So when the feminists, the abortion activists were lobbying for the abortion pills, I don't know if they realized what exactly they were doing and what impact it would have on their industry, but it's put them out of business, which is a good thing. These are businesses we don't want to be in business, but $10,000 for an abortion he was charging, late-term abortion. The argument that they make are they can't afford the babies. And so if you've got $10,000 to pay for the late-term abortion, you can afford to care for that child. And I've always been strongly pro-life. My mother is adopted. My daughter, those of you that are regular listeners know, is adopted. And my mother was born in 1951. And after my grandparents passed away, she tracked down her birth mother. And when she did, she went and met with her, talked to her. I didn't. I'm not interested in that. And she's passed away since. But she wasn't married. and she got pregnant in 1950. And my mother was born in 1951. And she told my mother what she did. This is exactly what she said. She said, I wasn't married. I got pregnant. She said, I went and stayed with, it was a relative. I can't remember, a sister, an aunt, somebody. She stayed with a female relative out of town. She said, I went and stayed with whatever relative it was. I had you and gave you up for adoption. And then she said this is what you did back then. This is what you did back then. Isn't that something? Right? Because what I've been told by the leftist is back in the 50s, women went and had these risky abortions. And obviously some did, but it was not as common as they want you to think. Most women did what my mother's birth mother did or my birth grandmother did. But this is great news. And it's interesting. I'm reading about this in Breitbart. If this were a few years ago, this would be mainstream news. But, like with the woke stuff, abortion isn't that popular anymore, because of all the reasons I mentioned before, morning after pill and all this stuff. And and young people, a lot of them are conservative. So they don't feel they're not into abortion. They're pro-life. And there's been a big, big change. When Roe v. Wade and all of that was an issue, it was a different time and a different country, meaning that, back in the 60s and in the 70s, it wasn't acceptable to be pregnant out of wedlock. Now who cares, right? It's no big deal. But back then it was. So there's no shame. Medical technology exists, so babies can live being born much more premature than they could back then. So many things have changed. And attitudes have changed. And, a lot of the abortion activists in the 70s, the 60s, and the 80s, and even in the 90s, and everything, most of them were, Rush used to call them feminazis, right? They were feminazi types that really just didn't like men telling them what to do. And they viewed it as men telling them what to do. But this late-term abortion clinic closing down, that is an incredible, incredible thing. I mean, that is just amazing. And getting back to this, the deal with Qatar, okay, more information's coming out now as I'm speaking. The Boeing deal that Trump brokered is a $200 billion deal. Think about that. A $200 billion deal just for Boeing. You would think with President Trump accomplishing something so important for Boeing, the biggest deal they've ever made, $200 billion, they could finish Air Force One, the new Air Force One, and get it to him, huh? Don't you think? Can't they do that? Look what he did for them. After what they've done to him, look what he did for them. So it's a $200 billion deal that Trump brokered with Qatar. He signed the deal with Boeing and Qatar. It was part of the jet gift to the United States from Qatar. And he also has $1.2 trillion, with a T, $1.2 trillion in an economic commitment with them. And the Boeing order is the largest in history. I mean, think about that. I mean, that's absolutely phenomenal. And all these people like Ben Shapiro, who have been attacking the president over dealing with Qatar, Levin with Qatar, look at what he's done. And, these leaders around the world, they care about power and money. That's what they care about, power and money. And President Trump understands they care about money a lot more. The power you need for the money, but the money is such a motivator for these leaders around the world. The bad ones and the good ones, right? And he knows that, and he plays to that and makes these huge financial deals and commitments to them. That's how he gets things done. That's how he was getting things done with Kim Jong-un. He hasn't even gotten to Korea yet. That's amazing what President Trump has done here. It is absolutely phenomenal. And, they're always going to hate him for it, but that's okay. The haters are going to hate. President Trump doesn't seem to spend any time trying to get any of these lefties or never Trumpers or the media liking him or approving of him at all. And I'm glad he's not, because they're never going to approve of him. They're never going to say that anything he did was anything other than wrong. And right now on X, with this deal he made, bribe is trending. Bribe, right? It's not a bribe. It's a gift to the United States, like the Statue of Liberty was. President Trump even said today, he mentioned the Statue of Liberty gift from France. I'm glad to hear him do that. It's not a bribe. It's a gift to the people of the United States. Trump already has his own airplanes that he privately owns, including one that's not the famous Trump Force one. It's a smaller jet that is the fastest jet that civilians can own legally in the United States. He used that one a lot on the campaign trail. That was how sometimes he was able to do, especially in the first campaign, so many rallies in a day because he had the fastest jet you could buy. I'm Brian. Thanks for tuning in. This is where MAGA comes to talk. Talk to you next time.